Hi guys, welcome back. All right, Geminis, let's see what our storyline is. Geminis, thank you for being here. Thanks for giving it a thumbs up and subscribing and dropping me a comment. It lets me know you guys like the Gemini videos and want more of them. I use that as a meter as to how many videos I should put out for each zodiac each week. So we have long road. Okay, so it's a journey. Sometimes that can be looked at like about a 2-year timeline. Doesn't have to be, but we are starting out with we've got something going on here. Okay, we have theft and we have woe. Oh, so this has been a long journey of it's as if first off, the theft will be recovered. If someone say they stole Gemini's heart, Gemini will heal, that their heart will be recovered, it'll be restored. But it is a journey of acknowledging that pain and that woe and kind of working. It feels like a grief process is what we're talking about in this. Our Gemini has been going through a grieving process. And to allow oneself to actually go through that grieving process is certainly important. We got two cards mixed in the wrong deck there. Okay, so brighter days are definitely ahead. As difficult as maybe these last couple years have been, brighter days are, the ships are sailing in, like literally we can see them coming in through the sky. And these are unusual ships because they're like hot air balloon ships that are floating through the sky. So we have an unexpected and fabulous time that is finally approaching. Now, I usually look at the Three of Wands as 3 months' time. We have a Four of Swords. Okay, so we're done with the grieving process, and I feel like the next month is going to be devoted to actually, like, every day our Gemini is going to feel a little bit stronger. They're going to feel more energized. They're going to feel more like they can run a little further. They might literally find themselves physically more having more stamina, and that's because some of the grief and the sorrow that they were dealing with is lifting, is alleviating. The grieving process is ending and the healing process is really underway. And I think it's like day by day. Maybe it'll take 4 weeks since it's the Four of Swords, but day by day they're going to notice improvements. And if they mark it on their calendar, like, man, this week I noticed that I actually smiled and laughed a lot more. I felt more energetic. I went on, a walk every day on my lunch break. Then after work, by week 2, I realized I wanted to go out and, hang out with friends. I went out for drinks a couple nights in a row. It was, before I was just going home and, just kind of still crying or grieving. And instead, it's like I'm feeling more energetic. Every day I want to do a little bit more. I feel better. That's where our Gemini is going in the next 3 months. This is month 1, right? The grieving is over. The healing is really in full swing. We have the Strength card, which is really nice. So this is like the second month out of those 3 months. Now we have full-blown major arcana. We have somebody that is, I think, not just healing and feeling more energetic, but we have somebody who's like realizing something has changed in them spiritually. They are spiritually very buff. They are very much in a strong element now. Not only has the grief alleviated, not only have they restored some of their energy flow, but they're realizing, oh my God, it's like I've been like this white light has filled me up and has knitted my very atoms back together, and I'm made of something stronger. It's I'm picturing if somebody could like pour like liquid metal into someone's entire like bone structure, and then they realize like, oh my God, I feel indestructible. I feel amazing. I can still move, but I know I'm super strong. My posture is awesome. But in this case, it's the white light that I feel like it's very much a spiritual rebirth or renewal by that second month. which is really awesome. And then by the third month, we've got we've got a sensual side coming in. So we have lots of different energies being restored, right? We have kind of like the emotional, we have the spiritual, and now we got a physical. This a knight is like the action taker. They're the ones who are hungry. So they go out and they go exploring. They go forage in the forest for food. So we had somebody who was like wounded. This is like, I'm in spiritual hospital. I'm really injured. And every day I'm really sad over what caused the injury. But then, okay, I'm not sad anymore. I'm realizing I'm healing. And now I'm realizing I'm actually healed. And now I'm back in the swing of life. And I want to do things, and I've got, a lust for life again, and I'm starving, hungry, and I want to dance with somebody, and I want to kiss somebody's lips, and it's this is our Whitney Houston card. Oh, I want to dance with somebody. Like, this is really nice. This is all happening pretty swiftly. To go from a grief process to like a step by step major breakthrough in all of this, like revitalized energy, it's very exciting. But if this is where our Gemini is at within this 3-month time frame, when you become a Knight of Wands, oh wow, the Ten of Pentacles is right after. So this is more the lust for life. This doesn't have to be like, okay, I'm on the prowl for a hot and sexy partner. That can be part of it. That can be libido is like, whoo, sky high. This could be a divine masculine Gemini who is revived and ready, but they also, like, everything in their life feels like they're more grounded. They feel more stable. This is also Gemini who's having a much better, like their finances are starting to look good. Their connections in their life are feeling like, wow, the people that I trust, I know are really close to me. This is also Gemini who could be really appreciating their family members a lot more, or their long-term friends. This could be a Gemini who starts reaching out to the people that have been a part of their life for a long time. I just did that, and it was so good to talk to a dear friend of mine, and we've always been close, but we are both awful about staying in touch. But we have a running joke that every 8 years we catch up, and it's like no time has passed. And it's this time it was me that I was like, I need to call it. Every time we do this, it's like, I was just thinking about you. It's like, well, I know it's been 8 years. We got to talk again. It's really funny because they're my very first friend I ever made. And they'll be the friend that I keep with me for life. But we haven't seen each other in 20 years. And yet it doesn't matter to either of us. It's the nicest friendship I've ever had because it's so real. That's the kind of thing, sorry to make that about me, but I was just trying to give the example of what is a Ten of Pentacles look like. It doesn't mean it's people that are in our life day by day. It doesn't mean we see them 10 times a month. Sometimes maybe it's a 10-year gap, but those are the ones that we really know. They're the ones that I keep close to my heart. They're the ones that I care about. They're the real ones. This is really nice because we have a lot of things being settled. Gemini is recognizing some things in their life were out of whack that preceded whatever this woe is. And you notice, because we have theft, I never identified what the hurt was, what the sorrow was, what the grieving process was, but it was obviously a loss of something. Because she's in red, my impression was it could have been about love. I don't want to dwell on that because the grief process is already ended. But here's the thing, now that our Gemini is in such a much better energy in this, they're recognizing from a very healthy, happy place, you know what? I wasn't just grieving the loss of something, but I'm also able to acknowledge there were some things in my life in general that have been out of whack. And I know that unequivocally now. Maybe I was out of whack. Maybe this was the Justice card can represent anything that's been unfair and balanced. We could talk about it in, like, we could say hormonal imbalance. We could say, I don't talk about body stuff in these because it's all just fictional storytelling, right? But our character could be reflecting and acknowledging, what I'm really clear on now is that a lot of things in my life were out of whack. Maybe I never would have gone through that woeful experience had I first asked myself, wait a minute, did I open the door and let the robber come in? Sometimes a character themselves realizes I wasn't in the best energy myself, which is probably how I let the wrong person in, or I let, um, there were other things that I personally could have had higher expectations. I could have, demanded more. I should have been on my side more and protected myself by not accepting less than what I'm worth. Those kinds of things can be out of balance, out of whack. And now that our character is so spiritually strong, it's like, yeah, I get it now. I was out of balance. And that's why this grief process and what I lost, now that I'm healed, I'm able to see it from a way higher perspective. And I realize there were a bunch of things I need to still set right in my life. What are the other things Gemini is going to be setting right? Because I feel like they are very much on this path to like clean stuff up. Six of Pentacles in the reverse. This Gemini was an overgiver. We've got the Nine of Wands in the reverse, and we've got the Hermit upright. I really think that we had a character who realizes now, anyway, that they gave too much. A lot of people that wanted something, if people wanted a place to come and live, Gemini probably said, yeah, sure, okay, you can move in on me. Never even made them pay rent. This could have been friends, this could have been their grown kids, this could have been lovers. Gemini could have been the person that ended up, baking bread for everybody, making sure all the holidays were at their house, making sure everything was taken care of. Nobody ever reciprocated. Nobody came to the party and remembered to like, hey, at least bring toilet paper, leave that in the bathroom when it's going to be a house full of people at a house party that Gemini's hosting. Maybe people should have offered to bring food. Maybe Gemini should have told people, I'll host, but it's a potluck. Y'all got to bring something. It feels like Gemini was allowing things to be unfair, and now they're reflecting on it saying that was an imbalance. I won't do that again. This is them really taking stock of things and seeing, not it's like, oh, it's my fault I got walked all over, but maybe they did need to advocate more for themselves. I have a feeling this Gemini would have treated, like if they had been dealing with a friend who was like themselves, the words that Gemini would have given to a friend, which is like, oh, sweetheart, don't do everything for everybody, make people be accountable, expect the same things out of them that you expect out of yourself. Don't give people a free ride. Gemini might have been able to give a friend good counsel, but they themselves didn't put that into play. At this point, they're very healed and they're very wise. And I think that this Gemini was, if they didn't have like higher expectations for, I feel like they took care of people that claimed that they were wounded, even if they weren't. Gemini might have been like a massive nurturer. They might have been the person who had a lot of little broken winged birds that would come into their life. And then Gemini would tend to people, nurse them back to health. But I think if that was a repeat pattern, some of those people were not wounded birds at all. They were freeloaders. Very different. And I think Gemini has, through experience now, has gained the wisdom. I think they had to be by themselves for a while to really be able to reflect on that, to be able to see the pattern. If you're looking for a pattern in anything, I think it takes time. Think of like wildlife biologists. If they're looking for migratory patterns of birds, it's not enough to just see it one season. They kind of got to track it. And they got to probably track it a couple years in a row. We expect that any pattern can take time to recognize. So why would we not assume that it could take time to recognize our own patterns? And I think that's what this Gemini has decided is, yeah, other things were out of whack too. And as I can reflect now, I see what they are. I see what those patterns were, and I can break those patterns now. I have the wisdom, but I had to first gain the wisdom. It's very nice to see a character who's been able to identify some things and then make the appropriate changes after identifying them. Okay, give me a little bit more on our gem. So they're doing things in a new way. Once again, we see them with the Ace of Pentacles, but once again, we see them with that that Knight of Wands. And we have the Five of Swords. Okay, so I'm going to say this. At this point, Gemini is starting fresh, completely new. It's a new attitude, it's a new wardrobe. They've come to the end of their old life and they are excited to jump into the new, leap right into this, ring of fire. However, they do have boundaries up, boundaries where they're not going to make the same, I'll say, I don't want to say mistakes. I want to say they don't have to learn the same lessons. I don't think that this Gemini is welcoming back any kind of an ex. If we've been dealing with a masculine Gemini, they may know, they may be able to reflect quite clearly and say they could have dealt with a feminine who seemed really sweet and innocent, but was kind of like a vixen, and they might have learned, don't deal with vixens. Now, at the beginning, though, our Gemini was in red, so I'm more inclined to say that it is Gemini in the red. And what they're realizing is even if an ex shows back up and they say that they're all burned down, brokenhearted, I'm not taking them back this time. It kind of makes me wonder if this whole thing wasn't about a Gemini who kept having somebody cycle in their life again and again and again, and they never changed. They would find a way back in. They would, like give Gemini like a pity story about themselves. Gemini would feel bad. They'd welcome them back in. And then pretty soon it's like, wait a minute, they weren't wounded. They were a freeloader. That was a repeat cycle. I think this Gemini has been an incredibly giving person, but they have recognized now, I'm not letting a particular ex back in, but I might also not be taking in the walking wounded who really just wants me to, rub their feet and feed them peeled grapes in reality. I kind of think Gemini's like, yeah, I got manipulated a few, maybe a dozen times, but that was the old Gemini. The new one, all I have is the same expectations for everyone else that I have for myself, which is I don't expect more from anyone than I expect from me. But when I'm wounded, I don't go out and try to get with somebody. I know that I have to heal. That's why Gemini's been in hermit mode. That's why they've been quietly going through a grieving process of changing. And you know what's so wild? They were grieving something that they never lost. You notice how we have the death card? It wasn't a transformation. It was just an awakening. That's what all that white light on the strength card was. This Gemini never needed, well, on one hand, I will say, they were prudent enough to say, when I'm hurting, I don't go out and try to like ooze my pain on anybody else. When I'm grieving, I deal with my grief. I, work through it. I work on it. I clearly identify things. I make sure I'm healthy. And then I'm ready to engage with others again. I don't go out and think someone else should be fixing me. So I'm done taking in the wounded that actually don't want to heal. They just want me to, feed and nurse them and give them and give them and give them my energy. And they never are intending to give back. So I think that's the big change. And I think this is something that Gemini has known all along. They knew what they were doing. They didn't really have to learn the lesson. It's like somebody who already read the book. So they knew how the book ended. They knew what the information was, but they just didn't really apply it. And Gemini's now applying it. That's super important for them. They're not taking exes back. So now that they're not taking exes back, who do they end up with? 3 of Cups. Well, they start dating to decide who they want. 5 of Wands and the Sun in the reverse. This Gemini is not going to be too swift to leap into any long-term commitment. They're going to date. They're going to figure out who they want to spend time with. They're going to go ahead and possibly really be mindful. Like, my time is precious. Who I really, choose to spend a lot of time with, they're going to be lucky when I pick one person. But I'm not going to rush myself. I'm going to get to know different people. I'm going to ask myself the big question, do I like this? What do I like about this? What do I not like about this? Am I getting what I need? And then I'll decide who makes me really, really happy. So they're just learning how to date. And this character could be pretty mature, but they're just now learning how to date. Good for them. All right, take care. Bye.